figured who's best to kind of ask in regards to the Childhood Dementia Initiative and Face It, which we're doing as a team next week, but also within your family group. You are the amazing Cindy, so one of the mamaluas who takes care of some of the clients we have. But talking about one specifically today, Miss Jessie, the amazing Jessie May, who, as we know, is absolutely amazing. But maybe I should allow you to give us a little bit of a rundown on who Jessie is and who you are in her world.
Well, Jessie is absolutely amazing. I'm just looking at her right now. She hasn't got the TV on, so she's a little bit.
Yeah.
But,
we may hear her soon, I'm sure.
Always been Jessie's foster parents for 15 years. And Jessie has Sanfilippo syndrome, which is a form of childhood dementia. So it's neurodegenerative and she continually loses skills. There are, 70 different childhood dementias, sadly, and, all a little bit different to one another, but different diseases, but they all ultimately cause the same horrible damage, And so all these kids are palliative care, and they pretty much, I guess, ask from the day they're born. They're just constantly losing skills, and that's how it goes. And so it's very sad. It's very, as a parent with a child with dementia, it's like it's there every minute of your day. Like it's always in your mind. You're always wondering if you're going to wake up one morning and she'll be gone. Yeah. And that's probably how it will happen. And I know, and you spend your years, your time, like attending other children's funerals, which is just shocking. No mother should have to go to her own child's funeral, but and you just have to see so many of these distraught mums, and it's really, really horrible. And people just don't realize that. They don't realize it's there. They don't know it's there. And that's the whole point of this awareness. There are so many of these diseases. And so instead of being only 100 children in Australia with Sanfilippo syndrome, put all the childhood dementia diseases together, and I think there's like thousands, in Australia, but there is something like 700,000 children worldwide with the different diseases, which all cause the same end. It's an end being the operative word, really. It's horrible. And so you just watch your child lose skills. Sometimes your child, some kids have never been able to say I love you, mum, or any of those words. Some do, and then it fades and it's gone. And we noticed with Jessie that it's skills would, she only ever had a certain amount of skills, sort of, so she didn't, she didn't hit her milestones when she was a baby, so she wasn't really, but she did pretty well, but not as she should. Anyway, but she a skill, we'd suddenly notice a skill would be gone, whatever it happened to be, whether it's, I can pick my spoon up and feed myself or something, and then we think, oh no, that's gone, and then it'd be back. And then it'd go away again. We find sometimes over the years, we would find it often one skill would come back 2 to 3 times. And then on that third time when it disappeared, it was gone forever,
Yeah.
And so really the big, really major and an imperative thing to do for these kids is to maintain their skills. Whatever skills they have, let's maintain them, And I've always said I believe that will keep Jessie alive longer and alive, happy, like, enjoying her life, being able to do things and be a part of things, And I mean, Jessie now has lost, well, really probably most of her skills, and she can no longer walk, and she hasn't been able to do anything with her hands for a while. She used to be able to pick up little thin pieces of finger food, and eat, but she can't do that. She doesn't know what to do with her hand if it's in, and that's even if she can hold it. So you just watch all these things deteriorate. So basically your child is just deteriorating, and it's extremely sad. It's I don't know. And I almost want to say this is not the right thing. I almost want to say you get used to it. You don't get used to it. You never get used to it, but you become accustomed to it or something. It's like things are not always a shock when something disappears, But I think the main thing is that we have fought and fought and fought to make sure that we keep her skills, you know, and like all
Absolutely.
these other parents are doing exactly the same thing, trying to make their child happy, every day happy, you know, enjoy the day because you're not promised tomorrow, you know.
Yeah.
But one thing we definitely do have is hope. I mean, I believe hope's a very powerful thing, you know. And I mean, we were told originally Jessie's adoptive parents were told that Jessie wouldn't live past 12, and I just spoke to a few people the other day, and they were all saying how they were told that, you know, and it's the same story from every parent: take your child home and love them.
Yeah.
Don't go looking for answers. Don't try to find solutions because there is none. And that's what they tell you to do
Yeah.
until now, until the last 10 years, of course, the wonderful Megan Mack and, you know, San Filippo Children's Foundation and our Childhood
Absolutely.
Dementia Initiative, and they're creating awareness, which creates more funding, which creates more trials, clinical trials, and this is the only way that we're going to find things. And they're right on the brink. You know,
Absolutely.
they're that close that, you know, they'll find, so they just need more money to be able to do that. And there's a lot of doctors involved. There's a lot of people, researchers. They've got great researchers now. Everybody wants to do it. But of course, funding is just a necessity for that.
Yeah, of course. I
And
think
like a
I did
clinical,
it as well. Oh, sorry,
yeah,
Cindy.
no, you go.
I I had when we were talking before about the event that I had, and I was doing guest speaking at a event previously, and that's a room full of people who work within the disability space
Yeah,
specifically. And I would just, you know me, I got on a bit of a roll in regards to something I was passionate about because it is Jessie. I'm
yeah,
short-lived support for Jessie, but I have been supporting her since she was 16 and now she's
yeah.
21, which is
I
just
know.
mind blowing. But I was in a room full of people who work in our industry talking about childhood dementia, which is our cohort, the disability side of things. And we all know, and we're more exposed to children with cancer statistics and initiatives, which are so important. But that's
Yeah,
the health space. Whereas we're in a room full of disability providers and they're more aware of something that's a completely different industry, sort
yeah,
of, than
yeah,
something that's our own. So that it kind of proves just how much the initiatives and the awareness is needed. And that's why we're having this conversation in the first place, because if
definitely.
people who work in the industry aren't even aware of the significant nature of this and the families and actually how debilitating the statistics are, when you see the statistics for the first time, it's a bit of a gut punch to realize
Yeah.
and recognize what's happening. So yeah, it was mind blowing to realize how many
Mm.
people aren't aware of it, if that makes sense.
I know it's quite shocking that
Yeah,
people that don't, you know, and I think that was absolute genius idea to bring all the childhood dementias diseases under one banner, Childhood
yeah,
Dementia Initiative, because at least most people would have at least a knowledge of dementia, if not an understanding of it, you know. And so, and yes, they always think that's with the elderly people, but it's not,
definitely not.
you know. And so, but everybody's always shocked to hear that a baby or a child or a youth, or, you know, can have dementia.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
had
really horrible to watch it just fade away, and they just be to the point where they don't even look you in the eye anymore, or if they do, they can't do anything. They can't. Jessie can't speak. She can't feed herself. She's fed by a G tube. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing she can do for herself. She's incontinent. She's, you know, all of the above, you know.
24/7. Yeah,
But the big thing about Jessie is Jessie is the happiest child I've ever met. Like, she's so happy. And it's really lovely. And her little face, when she smiles, it beams. You know,
yes,
it just beams, and it makes you feel good, you know.
I
And
most certainly do know. She
you know
fills
what?
my day when I see her.
I know. And you know what, Jessie and all these other kids are just they're like your kids. They're like everybody else's kids, except ours are dying, and they're dying every day. and they're getting closer to death every day, and they're losing skills. And that's where that whole maintenance of skills comes in, because it keeps them healthy, and it keeps them, if you're walking and doing things, that's going to, besides mental health and, emotionally, mentally, physically, everything, medically, everything is good because you're moving and all your organs are working. And well, theirs are just shutting down because they can't do that. So, there was a time we realized Jessie's mobility was getting a bit dodgy. She was getting a little bit like, we'd have to have two carers either side to walk her, but she could still do it. So we'd walk her back and forth, because walking was her most favorite thing to do in the world. That's the thing she loved. Jessie never used to sit down.
Smile.
She would pace back and forth and smile. Anyway, so then that was gone. That was just devastating, really, quite devastating that this was gone, or was going, and so we went, okay, we need a walker. We need to be able to get her in a walker and keep her going, because if you keep the skill, there's a good chance they'll keep that skill for many more years, maybe, if we're lucky. But once you're not using it, it's the same old story, use it or lose it, and it'll just be gone, So, so of course we did a trial, and she walked right across the lounge room in this walker with the biggest smile on her face, and we were like, oh, so happy.
Video's the best.
Unfortunately, trying to get that funded through NDIS and et cetera, and the whole process, over 12 months later, Jessie's walker turned up and she couldn't walk anymore.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just shocking, and we know, and there's clinical guidelines out there too, to say they need to have these things when they need them, not tomorrow, not, next week, not next year, and this happens with a lot of these kids. They don't get the things they need when they need them.
Yeah. And we know that, I mean, we're going through the similar thing now with the standing frame, as we know, and the amount of communication that we state, Jessie doesn't have that time up her sleeve. It's something that's really infuriating, even as a service provider. There's so many amazing things that we've been able to make work with the NDIS, as we know. The equipment is the sticking point when it comes to children in this cohort. It's such a significant thing because we need to get them equipment, and we need to get it to them now. And we don't always have that opportunity. We're able to get hiring, but it doesn't work at the moment, not all of the time. And with Jessie, we've been so successful with so many things, but we also have had some things that have had really significant ramifications. I guess, what does that mean when we're looking at Jessie's life? Just so for the people who need to be aware of this, that actually, ticking off that little thing on your list has very big ramifications. So what does that time frame look like?
It shortens her lifespan. It definitely shortens her lifespan. I remember when we were very, very graciously donated a MotorMed machine for Jessie from Variety, and that was just awesome. Amazing. And the CEO of Variety called me to ask me why Jessie needed that. Like he was just being, having an interest. And I told him, I said, this one piece of equipment may keep Jessie alive longer and healthier, to live a bit longer, healthier life, healthy for a while, as long as we can. I said, so basically I feel like it's a life support machine, and it does. She goes on it every day, every single day. And when she can't pedal, which she really can't do now, it does it for her. So she's essentially still moving, So when she can't do it, it'll do it. If she starts to take over doing something, it'll let her do it. It's a brilliant machine, and these are the things they need. They need this equipment because, we're afforded legs that work. You know what I mean? We can just get up and go and do what we want to do. Jessie can't, we can just say, I'm hungry, I'll go and get myself something to eat. Jessie can't.
No.
We're in pain. We can say, I'm in pain. Jessie can't.
No. And even sometimes with her communication, it's really hard to determine because it's not just her crying or getting upset or wincing. She has hysteria as well. So that could mean she's happy or she's in pain.
And it's hard to tell. It is hard to tell. And I think mostly I can tell when it's this is the most terrifying thing I think I've ever seen, where it was like 5 hours through the night she would scream on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off. But terrifying, like it's frightening for a parent, for anybody there. But imagine what it feels like for her, because she can't control that. She cannot control it. And you look in her eyes, and even when she was doing the laughing, and it's like it's uncontrollable, almost like hysteria kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you know, people would always think she was, oh, she's happy. No, she's not, because you look in her eyes and you could see fear in her eyes. You could see she was like, make it stop. You know, this is horrible. This is just really, truly shocking stuff, you know. And these kids suffer this every day of their lives.
Yeah.
And
families.
And families. And, you know, and it does take a big toll on the families. And like I said, you know, so you're wanting to spend as much time with your child as possible because tomorrow is not promised. And then on top of that, you want to make every day really nice for them and happy and enjoyable, you know. And then you want to work on keeping their skills going so they do live longer but healthy as long as possible. So you're busy doing all of this, and then you've got to fight the system.
Yeah.
So whatever system that happens to be, you know what I mean? Like, but you're always fighting a system of some kind, and you're a politician. Now you become a politician, an advocate, an entertainer, you know, you're everything, you know what I mean? But being the advocate, I mean, I love being an advocate.
Well, you're fabulous at it, to be fair.
Because I'm giving Jessie a voice, and all these kids, I can give them, you know, give them a voice that is just like, I don't know, it's beautiful. It makes me feel good that I can do this for her. But at the same time, this wears parents out doing this all the time. And then there's parents that can't do it. They don't have the time, or they don't have the education or something, whatever it happens to. Maybe English is their second language, and how do they fight for their kids? You know what I mean? Like, somebody's got to do it. So you know, we've all got to do it. But that's just it. More people need to know about it so other people can join the bandwagon and fight for these kids, you know?
Yeah.
Because most people don't have to worry about whether their child's going to be alive in the morning. Every day, on a daily basis.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's just being a service provider that supports your family and has been supporting your family for a significant time. You know, that fear is on everyone, let alone the family. So I can't even imagine what that's like to be a family in that space when it comes to supporting people like Jessie, our Jessie, of course. So when we're talking about the initiative that we're a part of next week, so the Childhood Dementia Initiative, who we know fabulous and phenomenal, they're doing Face It next week, which you and I are going to be doing, and well, the whole team are. Well, let's be honest, this is actually going to be posted on that day, so everyone will get a little bit more to bring to life. What do those initiatives mean to all of you as a family with Jessie?
Well, it's another thing that gives us hope, you know, because the fact that all these people will come together and fight for my child and fight for these other kids, it's lovely, it's beautiful. You know, it's hard to get that, but you know, like all these, I know they're fun things, but that's what you've got to do. You've got to put fun things out there for people to want to join in, you know, to spread the word kind of thing. And it means a lot to us. It means the world to us, because this might just create enough awareness to create enough funding to maybe get the trial that finds even a treatment, or to slow the process down, the degeneration down, because, you know, there's no cure, there's no treatment. We have been for years telling doctors what it is, doctors that didn't know, and it's only now that since Megan has started all of this and actually got the word out there. She's absolutely brilliant, and I'm in awe of Megan, like totally, because she is a parent to 2 children with Sanfilippo syndrome, and she is amazing. And since she's done that, we don't have to explain to as many doctors about things, because some people are getting on board. They're starting to realize that it exists. Nobody knows it exists, you know. And there's a lot to be done. there's a lot still to be done, a lot of work. And, so it's not just the average person that doesn't know about childhood dementia, it's the average doctor doesn't know
Oh, we
about
know.
or nurse
I
or
know.
any medical communities, they don't know about childhood dementia. So how can we possibly think that we're going to be able to treat it if no one knows what it is?
I know. It's
No,
actually supporting you through this, and what Jessie through this time, and with the significant time that we've had together. It's quite surprising, just the conversations that I've had with medical practitioners, but even people who work with and have specific knowledge on young onset dementia. I'm like, oh, I talk to them about childhood dementia, and they're like, childhood dementia, and it's their speciality a lot of the time, but it's just not known, and it's no one's fault specifically, but it's like, how do we get this out there? How do we get the media coverage? How do we make sure people are aware of something that's Australian families are really struggling with, and we've got a lot of children. They say a lot of the time it's a childhood disease because these children very rarely make it to adulthood. It's a significant percentage, and we just don't talk about it anywhere near enough, which means how do we get the resources and the supports? I know that the Bear Cottage has been amazing for Jessie, which we know and love the Bear Cottage.
Love Bear Cottage. Bear Cottage is beautiful. It's an oasis for parents. You know what I mean? Like, and it's the one place I felt that Jessie was safe.
Yeah.
You knew she's safe. We always stayed there with her anyway, but it doesn't matter. If we had to go, if something happened, we knew she was safe.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, because you never leave your child. It's 24 hours a day with these kids.
Of course.
And Jessie chokes on her own saliva at night. You get up and down to her. Like, it's not just a thing that happens in the day. It happens 24 hours a day, and hence you need funding for that sort of thing too, to help to do these things, because, you're trying to, make a life for your family too. And it's really hard to do that when you're just doing this all the time,
Yeah.
And we know the difference between the funding, for whatever reason it is. I always thought it might have been because they were palliative care, that maybe they don't get funded as well as other kids in the system, and which is really sad to think that would be the reason. But it's also possibly because they're degenerative, so they're losing skills. So nobody wants to provide a piece of equipment that might not be able to use next year. Well, they did it anyway because they provided it too late.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and we do see the difference between, and don't get me wrong, love the NDIS, has done wonderful things for our family, because we have 2 children with severe disabilities, both high complex needs,
very complex.
Yet Jessie is not funded like the other.
It's a very different plan.
And every time we go back for a review, every year we go to review, and every year the wonderful Gemma, I'd like to say, and it's really true, you guys and our whole team of OTs and speeches and physios and everyone comes together, and they put in reports, beautifully detailed reports about Jessie, and that goes to the NDIS, and it goes 3 months early, so they've got all this preparation, and then we end up with about 4 or 5 months later getting Jessie's plan after the 3 months. So, that's like 6 to 8 months before Jessie gets a plan. And this is because they don't know what it is. They don't know what it's got to be. It's got to be, because why is she funded so differently to our other child? Why it's like she doesn't matter in the big scheme of things. And that's how we feel that these kids with dementia get treated, and I think honestly it's got to be just education. It has to be that they just do not understand how they need things quickly, and they need them now so that they can live a life like we all do, like everybody else does, and isn't that what the NDIS is all about?
Absolutely. And we know, we've had years where we've been so successful, and I can't take the rap for all of that. We've had Emily, Lisa, Simone, they've done so much of that work, but we're all in, which
yes,
it's so difficult, because there's been times where not having that understanding feels like we've been able to get things quite fast, because it's like we're going to provide it. in the last couple of plans, we've had a really hard journey with Jessie, and we're so thankful for the NDIS because it really has moved mountains. We've changed so much just from the beginning of when I was able to come on board with Jessie and need support. But there are some difficulties that we know we face, and that time frame isn't something that's up our sleeve when it comes to children with childhood dementia. And that's where I really think that we need to do better as a system, and that's me included. I'm a service provider. I'm all in when it comes to supporting Jessie. You know that. I'm not going anywhere, let's be honest. But at the same time,
for a while there, I thought she was your child, Gemma.
I know. I'll just start telling people that too, Cindy. It's, you know, I just get the calls whenever I can hear her in the background. It just gives you that life of, we need to do better. I'm fortunate enough to get to know Jessie on that human level, to know what I'm fighting for. And she's not a piece of paper. And I'm not saying that the NDIS treat her that way in any way, shape or form, but I am lucky in that space because I really see the ramifications. I'm along for the journey, and I'm so lucky and privileged to be along for the journey with Jessie and with you all as a family. But it's a pretty hard journey. It's not an easy thing. And even as a service provider, we have to make sure that we're putting so much training support into our staff and for our staff to be able to be well equipped enough to support people like Jessie too. There's so many gaps, and that's a responsibility for us as well. Have you, I guess, thinking about that, is there anything to a service provider communication that you want service providers to be aware of what they can be doing or what we can be doing better to support people like Jessie?
Well, I think one of the things, it's always education, isn't it? It's always education. And I think the one of the things is because I recently found out that there's clinical guidelines for, particularly for Sanfilippo, which there would be, I'm sure, for a lot of these other dementia diseases. And they're really important because that they're the kind of thing that if a provider has them, can read them, will understand everything a bit more, they can then use those guidelines when they go to get funding, you know, sorry. But yeah, basically, I think things like that, it's knowledge. It's just having a knowledge of what the actual disorder is, what it does, how fast it happens, all those sort of things, what those particular people, clients actually need, what they really need, when they need it and how they need it. And, you know, you need to have an understanding of all of that to be able to provide that, you know, like if you've got a background in disability, for a start, you probably would understand why a person needs a wheelchair, not just that they need it, but why they need it and why it's so important, you know, and you would see it as their legs, whereas other people just see it as a chair, you know what I mean? Like, and this is it. That's their mobility. That's their freedom, you know, or a walker. A walker is freedom. You know, a walker
absolutely
is giving independence, something they don't have for anything every day. They don't have that, but a walker gives them that, you know, like, so all this equipment, all this help, all this everything is just vital and important, you know. And so I think if providers understand that, they have even a basic understanding to begin with of the disorder, then they can build from there. And, you know, because if you don't know why you're getting something for someone, how can you fight for it?
Yeah, exactly. It makes it a bit harder. And I know we mentioned Bear Cottage previously, and for anyone who doesn't know what Bear Cottage is, oh my gosh, look into it. It's phenomenal. They're just the best. But it's an underage hospice, essentially, as we know. But they bring so much colour and brightness to a world that can be quite really dark and difficult for a lot of families. And we're lucky, well, I'm lucky because I've pushed my way in to come along with you next week to the new adolescents and young adults hospice in Manly for the childhood initiative that's going to be happening there for Face It, which will be fun. But what do those actual places mean for families that really don't have anywhere else to go in those sort of circumstances?
They mean everything. It's like, besides the fact that you could call it, say, it's a holiday, because you'd go as a family, You know what I mean? So you can actually go and your child will be looked after, and your family could be in another unit somewhere there, and you can go to the beach and you can do things, and you know your child's being cared for properly. You know what I mean? And you can see them every day, and you can, you know, that sort of thing. But I think when I first, we could have gone to Bear Cottage many, many years before, but I couldn't fill the paperwork out. I actually couldn't complete the paperwork because it upset me so much. It was like, and I felt like I was so silly, like it was an omen that
It's
once
not
you do
silly
this,
at all.
that'll be got, she'll be gone. That's what's going to happen. You know, it's like, anyway. And of course, eventually I did it, and her pediatrician was wonderful and helped us, you know, anyway. So we got into Bear Cottage, and it was the best thing we ever did for Jessie and for our family, because it was the first time. You can't just go on holidays anywhere, because all the equipment that you have to have is crazy.
Significant,
you know?
yeah.
It's significant. You'd have to take a couple of buses, you know, anyway, and especially because we have 2 children with those needs. But anyway, we go to Bear Cottage, and instead of feeling, I was very nervous. I was nervous that I would feel sad there, that it would be gloomy or something, or just, I don't, but it's the total opposite. It's pure joy. It is pure joy. It is, it's like the Disneyland of hospice, if that is okay to say.
That's a great explanation. It is.
Honestly, it's, and don't they call Disneyland the happy place? Well, that's what Bear Cottage is. It's the happy place. It's, and yes, there's a lot of sadness there, but they do their best to make every day a really enjoyable day for everyone there, and counselling and everything is there, and they pamper you. As a parent, you get pampered, or you have somebody to talk to who knows exactly what you're going through, you know. So there's all those things, and then there's lots of fun things, and the kids love it, and like siblings love it, because, you know, there's lots of games and colouring in, and loads of wonderful volunteers that have probably been there for 30 years doing, you know, everything with the kids, and it's really a lovely place. Lovely place to be. And I think that is needed, and not everybody gets to go, because it's the only children's hospice, I think, in New South Wales. There might be another something now, but like other than Aya, like, but that's not children, that's young adult, you know, young adolescent. But yeah, so it's very limited how much people can attend, you know. But you know what? Just even visiting once is the most beautiful thing, and it gives you. It's another thing. This is weird, but it gives you hope. It's a place where you can take your child when they're going to pass away. You can take them to Bear Cottage, and you'll be surrounded by love and care. And that is an amazing thing. That's just blows my mind how amazing that is. But you can just go for a holiday and have some fun, or you can whatever
respite,
it happens to be. Just a bit of respite, you know. Or you can leave your child and you go, if you wanted, family were going somewhere, you could actually take your other children who don't get to do those things so much, you know, take them somewhere, and you know your child's safe.
Yeah. And it's something that doesn't really come to a lot of parents' minds. You know, it's not a circumstance that is a daily fear for a lot of families. And unfortunately, it is a fear for also a lot of families too. So it's just something we need to talk about more and be more open, so that these families and people like Jessie, who are so important, you know, obviously so important in your life, so important in my life. Jessie's a huge part of my life, and I'm only a service provider, but I've been along for the journey long enough now that it's talking about these things. It's not being afraid to express the certain really hard conversations. You and I have had some really hard conversations, some really tricky ones.
A lot of tears, Gemma.
A lot of tears.
Crying.
Yeah, lots of tears, lots of laughter, lots of anger, let's be honest, with some of the things that have happened. But that's that's what we need to talk about. People need to be aware this is your family's life. This is your day to day. This is Jessie's life, and it needs to be shown more. We need to be talking about it more. So I'm just so thankful that you've jumped on here just to spread the word, because what we do isn't just about doing what we do and supporting Jessie, which is of course why I do what I do. I love jumping in and being absolutely privileged to be on the road with Jessie, but it's making a difference. It's not just anecdotal care that we're doing. It's so important. We need to keep spreading it. So I'm so thankful for you for always being the advocate that you are. You and your family, you're amazing, and all of the services. I mean, the support workers that you have in that house, all of the therapeutics. We've
Oh,
got such a bloody awesome team for
I
Jessie, don't
know, it's
we?
absolutely amazing. And I tell people this all the time.
Yeah,
Like,
I
I'm
know.
always
You're
like,
amazing.
I was telling one of the research scientists the other day, you know, about our awesome team and how, you know, like, and this is why sometimes I think, why does Jessie's plan have to go back and forth and back and forth, and there's no funding for a carer and there's no funding for something? Why does that happen when we've got these people that do this awesome job? They do it 3 months ahead to make
Yeah.
everybody else's life easier, and still we end up in the same position. It's
Yeah.
like, and it can get very frustrating. But the only reason I've got a smile on my face, Gemma, is because of you and everyone at Marley and Mo. And I'm not kidding, because
I know.
without you guys, we couldn't do this. We couldn't do it the way we do it. We couldn't. It would be, we would be like we were before, snowed
yeah.
under all the time, not coping with much, always fighting, or trying to get funding ourselves.
I remember coming into those days, Cindy, that you
Yeah,
were
and it was
doing so
hectic.
much.
And, you know, we were all exhausted, and we had a child. Jessie was in the stage where they didn't sleep at all, where,
Yeah.
and of course she was still walking. They're just up around going like this around the house all night,
Yeah, I
getting
know.
into things. So we used to take it in turns to sleep. You
I
can
know.
sleep tomorrow night, I'll sleep tonight, da, da, da. This is how we used to do it.
I
So
know.
carers are imperative. You know, you need help
So
with these
important.
kids, and also to keep them safe. What if you are the person that's up for the night and then you fall asleep because you're just exhausted? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and then anything. They're like little babies in big bodies. Every single thing they can find anywhere is in their mouth, you know?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I know. I remember with Jessie and you know the headbutts. You can't get too
Oh, yeah.
close. You get good at ducking and weaving
Oh,
with
all
Miss
of those.
Jess.
That's called the Sanfilippo headbutt.
Yes, it most certainly
And they
is.
all do that. All the kids do that, and they're all just as gorgeous as each other. I love
I
them
know.
all.
I
So
know. You
sweet.
get good at doing the duck and weave. She's caught you guys a few times. I know that. Poor Garrett, he's copped a big one. But
We've all had bruises. Thanks, Jess.
yes, exactly. And this is the reality. You know, some people who don't live the world, well, within the world that we live in, but certainly not the within the home that you live in, would be like, oh my gosh, look at them laughing. But this is what we have to do. We have to find the pockets of joy while supporting families with such significant hardship and bringing that joy in life, just like Bear Cottage, just like the new place, the new hospice in Manly. It's finding the joy in the pockets and celebrating exactly who Jessie is, headbutts and all, but also getting good at the ducking and weaving and making sure that we're doing all of the best support we can for her medically too.
But you know, just what you said then, you've got to enjoy those pockets of happiness. You've got to actually live that. You've got to have it. And like this, us laughing about it, you know, like it's great. It's great. And it puts a smile on my face, and it makes me feel like I can get through the rest of this day. And, you know, my long list of, oh, ring them, do that, do this. You know, and people think you're just home, oh, you know, changing nappies for your big baby, which is what she is, my beautiful big baby. But you're doing a lot of other stuff. There's just, it's continuous, you know, ordering equipment, you know, just consumables and like everything. Managing, we've got a whole screen that's set up to manage our daily calendars for our girls, you know, and it comes up on the screen. It tells you this, and you know, we've set it up like that because pieces of paper don't work.
Yes,
you know? And we've had to do this.
And the equipment that's in that house, I mean, it's you walk in that house and it's a house of joy, and but it's such a disability house. There's big bits of equipment everywhere, and there's lots of audible noises that come from Jessie and, you know, our other participant that also lives in the home, who we love as well. It's a disability specific home, but it's a home, and that is something that you guys have been so phenomenal at creating, and it's not always something that people are afforded, you know, within this space. So you're amazing for doing everything that you do. And I know how difficult it is, but you can't do it without the support, and we can't provide support with other pockets. So Marley and Mo, I know you thanked us. We can't do it without getting the knowledge and the support. And, you know, we've done a lot of extra things that we want to make sure we're doing, but we're all in. And when it comes to supporting children in this circumstance, you kind of have to be all in. It can't just be the anecdotal, well, we're Marley and Mo, we do the service delivery for this cohort. We have to be all in with all of the other parts. And it's not easy to allow service providers to come in that space. So we're very thankful for that, Cindy.
Well, we're very thankful for you, Gemma.
Oh, bless you.
Everybody there. We truly, truly are. And, you know, like we remember those days where we did it by ourselves. Like I said before, like it was not easy. And you were fighting for everything, every little thing. There was no NDIS. There was no this, that, or the other. There was no carers. It was just Garrett and I around the clock, you know. And but we just love them so much. How can you not do it? How can you not do it? And you see the little faces. I'm looking at Jessie's now as she's going to sleep in her chair. I love that little face, you know, and all these kids deserve this. Every parent that has children with these disabilities and, you know, these, especially childhood dementia, they need help. And they truly need help. And so they need people who understand what it is so they know what help to provide. You know what I mean? And that's the problem. Providers don't provide the help if they don't know what they need, what help is needed. And that's the issue. And you can say this, and this, but it's hard to explain a lifetime of watching this child. And, you know, when you say, oh, you know, when she used to be able to walk and she used to go to a day program somewhere or something, you know, we'd say, oh, be careful because, you know, she'll wander off there or she'll do this and she can't do steps and she can't do, you know, and you've got to watch and they go, oh, and she'd look fine and off she'd go. But, you know, we've had her come home with pieces of plastic in her throat that took a week of many, many doctors to find what was in her throat because we didn't know. And she was choking for a week before they operated and got it out. And that was only because we constantly hassled and I, you know, we're back to the hospital, and Garrett would take her to the hospital and I say, don't you come home till somebody does something.
Yeah.
Because they don't know, they don't understand. So an understanding of something, it's the same as anything, any education at all. You need basic education to be able to go out in the world and do something, you know.
Absolutely.
This is the same thing. And, you know, they need to be educated and and I think that's and we've often slipped through the cracks of the system over the years for other reasons. But we were like always in the cracks, you know, and so we know what it's like to fight to try and not be the person in the crack, but be the person that's able to provide their child with what they need, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're not luxuries. Like we're not talking luxuries.
Basic human rights, especially in Australia. In the country we live in. And, you know, we've been so successful in getting so many things and we are so thankful. The reality is we just need more and more and more to support these children. And it's people who don't understand that can sometimes be the barrier, but they just don't understand or they don't have the knowledge base to realize that they even are being a barrier at that time. So it's these sort of things and it's the initiatives that we support. And, you know, we always love to support as many as we possibly can just to get this out. But I even remember to this day, you probably wouldn't even remember, it's so long ago now, Cindy, but honestly, the huge big mama bear hug you gave me the first time after we had met and we did the meeting and we went through, right, this is what we can do, this is what we can get in place. And it was just this exhaustion mama bear hug of,
you know what it was, Gemma? It was relief. Finally, I have somebody that knows what I'm talking about. Finally, I have somebody that has the expertise to help me. You know?
Well, I appreciate that, Cindy.
And the will to do it, I might add, and does it with love and care.
The expertise part, maybe not so much, but the will and the love and care, 100%.
And it makes a big difference. It's the same as our carers. We've got a wonderful team of carers that we built over the years, you know, and they all love the girls. They love them like their children, you know, and this is what kids deserve. And parents
Absolutely.
deserve to be able to go, I can go out for a minute and not worry that my child's going to choke on something while I'm gone,
Yeah,
that sort of thing. My child will be
absolutely.
as safe as she possibly can be, because, as
Absolutely.
parents with children with dementia, you actually do that thing where um, you always worry about, oh, well, I have that night out. What if I'm not here and that's the night? Like, these are the things you live by. It's like a
Of
code,
course.
and
Of
you've
course.
got, you've got to let go. You have to let go somewhere, but you kind of want to be there for
So scary.
most kids. Yeah. And
Yeah.
Jessie being 21 is absolutely amazing.
Isn't
Like,
it?
first they said 12, then they told us maybe 18, she might get to 18. And here she is at 21 and she's going,
Yeah.
we're going to try
The
and get her
big
to 40.
celebration. I remember we're going to get to 18. Then we got to 18 and it was, we're going to
Yeah.
get to 21. Now she's 21. It's, you know what? We're keeping this thing going. She is so
Yeah.
phenomenal in her own space.
Oh,
She's
she is.
she's an absolute marvel, and we're so lucky to be on the journey with Jessie. I'm so
We are.
thankful for that
We
that
are.
first meeting that we had. Who knew that I would be able to be this lucky to be
Oh, look,
supporting Jessie this whole time?
we
I'm
love it.
so thankful to all of you for allowing me on that journey and
Oh,
allowing
thank
me
you,
to do
Gemma.
these things
Oh,
so that we can keep sharing it. I know I've taken
yeah.
so much of your time already with
I've
your
just got one more
huge
thing
day.
I'd like to say.
Yes, of course.
Jessie is, and all these kids are, I've seen it in all their little faces of these kids with childhood dementia, and their little faces and bigger faces, and they're courageous.
So
They're
courageous.
absolutely courageous. They live with pain they can't tell you about.
Yeah.
They live with, losing things every day, becoming, not being able to function anymore. And some of the kids actually know it's happening to them.
Yes.
I mean, Jessie has an intellectual disability, which I feel like saying that's a godsend, because simply because she probably doesn't understand,
Yeah.
what's happening to her. But they're courageous and they're truly our heroes, all of them. They're our heroes,
Oh,
and we should be celebrating them, all of them.
celebrating.
And,
Absolutely.
definitely, that's what it's all
You
about.
know what? With Jessie as well, with all of her difficulties and everything that she goes through, there's still that personality piece that Jessie has.
Oh,
I'll come and if I see her and she might be so excited to see me or whether it's on camera or whether it was in person and it could be that. And then some days she's like, nah, lady, you're not getting anything out of me today, Jem.
no.
And I could try my hardest. And she's like, nah, not today. But it's so amazing in that space. And people don't always take the time because of that fear factor as well. I've seen it in so many meetings where they recognize someone with really significant disabilities. They won't always address that person because there's that uncomfortability, which is
Yeah,
understandable, but
yes, I
it's
know.
it's going in and it's, hi Jessie, how are you, Jessie? Do you like it? We always kind of
I
do.
know, and she loves it. She loves it.
And
But you
as
know
she
what?
should.
That thing with disability, it's like ignorance born of fear. It's
Yeah.
it's they're not trying to be ignorant, that people, they don't know
Oh,
how to deal with it. They don't know what to do or what to
yeah,
say, you know. But
yeah,
yeah, and that's why the world needs to change a little bit. So, because I'd like to point out that not only are they that just like Jessie would miss out meeting those people or those people talking to her, they're missing out on
oh,
her. And
they're the
I'm
ones
telling
who
you,
were
that's a
missing
big
out.
one. You don't want to miss out on these kids. They're pure joy.
They are phenomenal
Yeah.
in their
And you know what?
space.
They deserve to live a life like everybody else does. Even if it's
Absolutely, they do.
shorter, it should have quality, every day.
No,
Every
I
day.
agree. I
Yeah.
agree. And that's exactly what you're doing in that home. It's an absolute marvel. Every time I even talk to you guys or whenever I've popped it, when I've come round or
Yeah.
when I've been able to, the fun part with all COVID,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
the way all of you have been able to just change everything and to make sure that all of the difficulties that we have faced,
Yeah.
Jessie hasn't had to face all of those apart from what we can't control. You
Yeah.
have been able to really support her in that space, and that's what a lot of families do. And that recognition isn't always there. And there's a lot of families that just aren't seen, and a lot of people like Jessie who aren't seen for the real difficulties. So I'm just appreciative that you're such a fierce advocate. You and everyone in that family and all of the service providers and the support workers in that home are
Everyone,
just
yeah.
amazing. They really are. And it is these things that we need to keep doing. So I'm thankful for you for doing this, and we'll get the word out as much as possible. Keep
Definitely.
doing what we're doing as much as possible.
Definitely.
And appreciate it.
They really need to understand that awareness creates funding, creates clinical trials, creates solutions.
Yes,
you know, it's
absolutely.
and sadly, clinical trials cost millions of dollars.
I know.
They're not cheap.
No,
you know?
they're not.
Yeah, and it's mostly parent powered. Mostly
Absolutely
parent
it
powered
is,
because no one else knows about it. So
Everything
these
is
parents
parent
that are
powered
trying
a
to
lot of the
spend
time.
every second of quality time with their child are also out fighting doing that, so
Yeah. No, that's a good point, Cindy. Well, I
it
think
is
we
a
can
lot.
definitely wrap it up there, and I can send that through to the people, and they can do what they do with this video and see what we can do about just getting more people aware of it, and especially people in our industry who really need to see the life and the color that is a part of this, but also the really deep and dark parts of this that we need support with, and we can't do it without people being aware of it. So thank you.